Howdy partners, it's your old buddy the Reddit writer. Welcome back to the Reddit Ranch. Come in and sit a spell and listen to the mighty fine tales I gotta tell. Our first story for the day involves a little lady that I reckon would make a horrible grief counselor.
AITA for telling my husband that he needs to get himself under control. My husband's mom passed 5 to 6 months ago. He was very close to her. Since then, he's started stress eating and has been depressed. He seems like he's been having an existential crisis since she passed. His eating is very out of control. He looks like he's gained a lot of weight. I came home from work the other day, and he was eating a large bag of Taco Bell food. I finally told him that he needed to get a hold of himself and stop doing this crap. Then I asked him how long he planned to live like this. He just got upset, and just told me to leave him alone. Then went to the guest room, and didn't come out till the next day. We haven't really sat down and talked since then. AITA. I know I was harsh, but I am legitimately worried about how he's been spiraling for 6 months.
Well now, ma'am, I gotta ask, what's the matter with you? Y'all's solution to your husband's grief is pretty much to just yell at him to put the fork down. What, do you think that his grief should be gone by now? You'd make a lousy grief counselor. My ma died about 18 years ago, about 3 months before I met my wife, and I still feel her loss, and I probably will for the rest of my life. And yes, of course, life needs to go on. And how was I able to continue? I have something your husband doesn't. I have an incredibly supportive wife, who gave me a shoulder to cry on when I needed it. She never once told me to knock my crap off. If you can't do for him what my wife did for me, then get him some counseling. He probably needs it. Well now partners, isn't she just the most supportive of wives? Anyway, what do y'all reckon? Do you think she is being too harsh, or not harsh enough? Please let me know in the comments. Next we have a story about a ma that has a daughter that cost her ma a job just to make a buck. Wow. That's cold.
AITA for grounding my 11-year-old daughter for a month after she cost me my job. I'm 34 weeks pregnant and don't have a normal 9 to 5. I was put on bed rest, but that was lifted as of a month ago, so I started dog sitting as a source of income. I had a client who would drop her pup off at 7:30 a.m. and pick her back up anywhere from 8 to 9 p.m. I wasn't even getting paid a lot, honestly, but it gave me a sense of purpose almost, versus just sitting here feeling utterly useless because I didn't have my own money and had to rely on my husband. So I only got like maybe $150. We don't even really need an extra income for myself, but again, it just made me feel better rather than just sitting at home. My daughter can be a bit self-absorbed and only think of herself and her own gain a lot of the time. She asked me yesterday if she could start up her own dog walking company, and I brushed off the idea because I'm not having my 11-year-old walking the streets with dogs. I don't feel it's safe and I physically cannot go with her as of currently. So I said no. She was angry with me. When my client came to pick up her pup last night, my daughter came down and told her that she should stop paying me to watch the dog and pay her $1 a day because she would do a better job, and said, I have the dog all day, every day. My mom doesn't do anything. This is a bold-faced lie. She walked her once yesterday and the rest of the time, I had the pup. I did correct my daughter at that point and say, no, you didn't. I had her all day and you walked her once, but apparently it made no difference, as my client texted me that night and said, I think we will be finding another dog sitter for the time being, as I find what your daughter said to be concerning and I just need to make sure that my pup is getting the best care. I hope you understand. I immediately went to my daughter's room and told her she was grounded for a month because she cost me my job. I took all her electronics from her, and it means she will not be able to attend a friend's party next week. She cried and told me she didn't mean to, but this isn't the first time she's done something to jeopardize things for me and her father for her own gain, and certainly not the first time she's been spoken to about it either. My husband is saying maybe I pushed it too far and that grounding seems extreme. However, my daughter was fully aware that this income made me feel good about myself for the first time during this pregnancy, and she just knowingly ruined it for me, simply because she wanted to make $1 a day. AITA? ETA, to answer a few repeated statements, I did not let her walk the dog on the street. I was already outdoors with the pup, and she came out and asked to walk her around the house. She never left my yard, and as I stated, it was once that she walked her. As for the money issue, she makes about $40 a week already with allowance for doing chores. Her father has made a dedicated chore and allowance chart for her. The more chores she does, the more money she gets. She has over $900 saved up already. The issue at hand is the fact that she has become fixated on money and will do anything she can to make a quick buck, even if that means walking all over people to do so. She does not spend any of her money. She insists on saving every penny she makes and has said numerous times, "I'm going to be the richest one in the family." Her fixation on making money in any way possible has led to her knowingly costing me my job for her own gain.
Well, ma'am, y'all's younging sounds like she's a little, angel. As for the law you handed down, nah, I don't reckon you're a sidewinder. I mean, she needs to understand that no amount of riches can buy someone honor, especially if it means you're hurting someone in the process, especially a friend or family member to get it. Because if such behavior continues, then when she is grown, she might end up being rich, but, after stepping on everyone she knows, she'll also be alone. Well, partners, what do y'all reckon she should do? Or have any of you ever encountered something like that? Please let me know. Our next one was posted by a cowpoke that refused to cover his wife's cousin's losses at the casino.
AITA for not covering my wife's cousin's losses at the casino. This happened over the weekend, yet my wife still gets texts from her friends, saying how I could have helped them. So, I'm 29, and I was at the casino while my wife was with our daughters on a playdate. I was waiting in the cashier line when I heard someone shouting my name. Turn around, and realize it's my wife's cousins, Jess and Chloe, and their boyfriends. The girls ask me where my wife is, I tell them she's with the kids. One of the guys asks me if I'm cashing out because I'm up or because I don't want to lose all of my money. I tell him I did well today. The other bloke comments on how he's done a couple hundred, the other dude is the same. Overall, between the four of them they're probably down $500. I tell them that's not too bad, especially between four people. Jess says not for me, but for them it's a lot of money. I just said they shouldn't let the casino suck them in and lose what they can't afford to. Anyway, I'm next in line to cash out, and they're all still there, so I just go and collect. That's when they realized I cashed out a lot more than $500. My total was $11,000. When they asked how I won that much, I told them what I do. Start on $2,500 and play blackjack. Thankfully today, I got to roughly $8,000. Decided to play roulette until I was down to $7,500, instead I won and left with $11,000. Chloe was saying how happy she was that someone won, and then in her sweetest voice, asked me, "So, can you cover our losses?" Obviously, I responded no, this is a good lesson for you. When Jess brought up, "We're family," I told her your cousin didn't win, her husband did. They were getting upset, so I said I'll make a deal with them. I took $500 of my winnings, went to a roulette table, and asked them red or black. They decided black. I put $500 on black. When the dealer called last call I changed it to red. It came out red. I blew them kisses, took my $1,000 and said I'm leaving now. Obviously by the time I got home, my wife knew what happened. She said I shouldn't have blown them kisses at the end, but she also said it's not my fault they lost their money. Jess, Chloe and their boyfriends, and their mum are upset I didn't cover them, because not only did I win, I also have more money. So, AITA.
Well now, I plumb reckon y'all ain't a sidewinder. I mean it was not your fault they lost, and it ain't your responsibility to cover their losses. Like the old gambler's proverb says, you should never gamble with more than you can afford to lose. Granted, blowing them a kiss after you won again was kind of a mean move. I mean, it was funny, but still a mite bit mean. I mean, it could have been worse. Y'all could have walked out singing the Kenny Rogers song Gambler on your way out. Well, partners, what do you think? Would you have covered their losses or not? Please, let me know in the comments. Our last story is by a little lady that wants to know if she's a bad person for throwing her boyfriend out, leaving him homeless. Seeing how we are starting this story with a trigger warning, I'd have to go with no. Speaking of which, I will put a trigger warning here, because it does deal with a bit of abuse.
AITA for making my ex-boyfriend homeless with no warning. I'm 19, and I had been with my 23-year-old ex-boyfriend, who we will call Max, for nearly 2.5 years. This was over COVID, so at the start of our relationship we had both been made redundant as we worked in hospitality. A few months after lockdown I started a new job as a pub supervisor. Max had not taken any time to try to find a new job. Because of this, his mum had kicked him out of their house. They also had to call the police on him as he turned violent when he was told. After he spent a few months in a halfway house, he then moved into my mum's house with me for 3 months. I then got myself my own flat through private rent and moved all of our stuff out and asked him to seriously think about getting a job. After a further 4 months without him trying to get a job and me paying for every expense, I would make roughly £1,000 a month, and 850 of that would go on bills. 100 would be taken out by Max to pay for his various addictions, and the rest I was trying to save. He did get money through Universal Credit, which was roughly £400 a month, but that would all go on adult refreshments. I then had a serious talk with him and asked him to get a job or start paying me £400 for bills a month, or I would have to ask him to leave. After work the next day he came home with a big booklet on mental health and showed it to me and said that the doctor had diagnosed him with depression and he had to start taking pills, and because of his depression he didn't feel like getting a job. Max then started crying and getting really upset at me and saying that I was a horrible person for saying that I didn't want him there, making me feel bad for asking for help, and saying that relationships isn't always a two-person thing. This kind of talk went on for another 2 months. I would ask him to look for jobs, at least attend interviews to see if it was going to go anywhere. He would then refuse and then come home and try and find some way to make money. He then got his brother to buy him a 3D printing machine and started printing little figures and trying to sell them on Facebook Marketplace. There was potential here. He could, if done properly, make some money to bring in, even if it was only £100 a month. It was a start and it would be welcome to it. When it started to gain some kind of traction, he then asked me to get him some of the resin that he needed. Then he said that he would pay me back when he made money back from it, and he was going to make it a business, so that we could pay all of our bills with this business. Stupidly, I did buy in the resin, but I also bought him a stall Christmas market in town. We had an argument again because he didn't want to do the Christmas market, at which point he pushed me into a wall and started saying that I was the reason that he had depression. I shouted back at him saying I was trying to help, knowing that I couldn't do anything in this situation. I took a walk outside, at which point he found me and apologized, saying that it was his pills that had made him do it. He ended up going to the Christmas market. He made nearly £250, which he spent on adult refreshments. I was upset and angry, but I was also numb and didn't know what to do. Christmas was a busy work period for me, so I concentrate on work for a little while I started going out with friends more. I started spending less time with him, pretty much no time with him, and then one day I just messaged him what I was at work and said, I don't want to see you when I get home. I want you to move out, I don't love you anymore, please leave my house. He walked into my work and explained that he couldn't talk to me over the phone because he had smashed it on the floor. And then asked why I want to kick him out. At which point I said I don't want to live with him anymore, I pay for everything, and he pays for nothing, not even food. He's drained my savings and I don't even get to spend any money on myself anymore. I then reminded him that I was 20 at the time and he was 24. And I should not be the adult of this relationship. All the time he then started screaming and shouting. And the people I worked with came outside and started clearing some glasses around where I was to make sure I was okay. He then stormed out, and as he passed the gate outside of the pub I worked at, I said, "I don't want you to be there when I get home. If you are, I'll call the police." I went home and he was still there acting like nothing had happened. He came over to give me a hug and called me baby and said, "I didn't realize you're gonna be home this early. I missed you." I was so confused, it was like I was talking to a different person. I stood my ground, and he became insanely angry. At which point I told him to put his postal keys through the letterbox. "I will be home in 3 hours, I don't want to see you there." I gave him my phone, so that he could call his brother to pick him up, and I left to go back to work. 20 minutes later he came in, he smashed my phone against the counter, it still worked, it just had a cracked screen. I then never saw him again, which I feel was for the best. There is many other instances where he got angry quickly or tried to act like I had never asked him specifically to do something to benefit the household, to help me with bills. He seemed to always ask why he had to put money into the house, why he had to pay for food, why he had to do this. That whole 10 months that I had him living with me were one of the worst 10 months in my life. This is my very one-sided part of this story, and I know his side was probably different, but I've been told that I am an AH as I made him homeless, and that I didn't give him enough warning. AITA.
No ma'am, you ain't a sidewinder. You gave the little buttercup more than enough opportunity to be a man, and to take care of his responsibilities. Him being homeless is completely on him, not you. Personally, I think he looked at you more as an ATM than a girlfriend. Though, actually, I think the relationship should have ended as soon as he put his hands on you. The instant an argument turns physical, regardless who is the aggressor, the relationship needs to end. I know all y'all were trying to do is help him, but honestly, y'all can't keep someone else warm by setting yourself on fire. Well, partners, what do y'all think? Do you think she should have given him more time, or do you think she was in the right to just kick him out? What would you have done? Well, I plumb reckon that's all the time we got today, but if y'all like this here video, then please hit like and subscribe. It'll really make this old cowpoke smile. And if y'all got anything to say, then feel free to tell me what's on your mind down in the comments. Until y'all come back to the Reddit Ranch. Adios.